Hi everyone, this is Anna here from Aussizz Adelaide. I would like to welcome everyone to our biggest online event so far. And today is our first day, but we are going for the whole week with a lot of different sessions coming up. So make sure you register and still go watch other ones. The topic for today's session is accounting and human resources, skill assessment, and future pathways to stay in Australia. With me, I have Tejas Patel. He's a registered migration agent and also director of South Australia branches for Aussizz. He has a credible voice in the industry, guiding many and many migrants towards their ultimate goal of PR. He's very active on social media, so if you want to be updated about any migration changes, make sure you follow him on Facebook and Instagram as well. I'll leave his details on the comment box. Before we start, we want to make sure that this is a very interactive session. So please add your questions on the comment box, and I'm going to read them out in the end of the session to Tejas, and he'll be able to reply to your queries. And also, we would like to hear your feedback about these sessions. So I'll be placing some links in the comment section. And once you click there, you're going to go to our Facebook post. And if you can leave a review about the session you watch it, you just let us know what you find positive about it and also what can we improve for the next ones. We're going to give prizes for that. So if you leave us a review and tag Aussizz group on there, you get a chance to win cash prizes. And also the most participative members here in the chat box, specifically during the live session, they will get a chance to receive free vouchers for PTE coaching, IELTS coaching, PR consultations, and many others of our services. So make sure, don't be shy, just post your comments there, and we will definitely get back to you once Tejas finished his presentation. Tejas, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks for the introduction.
Thanks. I'll just ask you to start sharing your screen, and then we can go ahead with your presentation. And I come back in the end to address you the audience questions.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Can you see the screen?
I can see. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just make it slideshow. So it's full screen. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Tejas. As Anna mentioned, I'm a registered migration agent based here in Adelaide, Australia. Today in this session, we'll be covering up two core groups. Number one would be accounting, and the second one would be in human resources. So as an international students, a lot of you would coming to Australia to study accounting. A lot of students who have done, let's say, Bachelor of Business or Bachelor of Commerce in their home country will be coming to study Masters of Accounting or Masters of Professional Accounting here in Australia. Or even if you have studied Bachelor of Business and you'll be doing Masters of HR or HR-related studies in Australia. So in these sessions, we'll be covering up these two core groups. Number one would be accounting group, and number two would be an HR group. So in an accountant group, there are two separate categories as well. So accountants and auditors. So if we talk about accounting in particular, we have three different occupations in this group. Number one is an accountant general. So that covers up all the accounting body, all the accountants in general who are doing all the normal accounting tasks in either a CF firm or any company. You have a second, which is a management accountant. Third, which is a taxation accountant. So second management accountant will be based in management consulting firms or even in the normal corporate structure as well. Or third is the taxation accountant. So taxation accountant is someone who works in a CA firm, primarily focusing on taxes and laws and taxes and issues. So you have three different categories in accounting. All these three occupations are under MLTSSL. So what is MLTSSL? It's a long-term occupational group. So it's a medium and long-term skill shortage list, which focus on Australia's long-term skill shortages. So if your occupation is in this particular group, you can apply for many visas, including 189, 190, 491, all these three is the skill migration, and you can also apply for 482 TSS. Which can lead you towards a permanent residency as well if your occupation is in this particular group, MLTSSL. Second group you have is the auditors. So auditors, company secretaries, and corporate treasurers. This is a group where you have four occupations. company secretaries, corporate treasurers, external auditors, and internal auditors. Company secretary is part of the short-term list. What the difference between a long-term and short-term list is, long-term list, you can apply for your PR through independent 189 as well, whereas short-term list, you have to explore either an option through state nominations, or you can also apply through 494, which is a regional sponsored, employer-sponsored visa. So you have less options if your occupation falls under STSOL. You have more options if you have occupation which is falling under MLTSSL. Company secretary is there. There are certain states which sponsors company secretary. We'll be covering up that later on as well. Second occupation is corporate treasurer. It's not in the list as of now, so you won't be able to apply for any skill migration through this occupation in particular. You have external auditor, which is in the long-term list as well, and you have an internal auditor, which is in the long-term list as well. So you have 3 occupations in this particular group as well, which are in either STSOL or MLTSSL, meaning even if you study any of these subjects where you can get the skill assessment leading to these occupations, you can explore to apply for your permanent visa in Australia after your studies. Another group we'll be covering up in this session is the human resource managers or human resource professionals. So it's in general as an HR professional. So you have 4 different occupations in this particular groups. One is an HR manager, and then you have human resource professionals, which covers up HR advisor, recruitment consultant, workplace relationship advisor. So these are 3 occupations which are not related to HR manager directly. They are different groups. So even if you need a similar qualification to get this occupation assessed or to be an HR manager, you still need an MBA in HR or relevant qualification. But for the skill assessment purposes, the requirements are different. So we'll be covering up those requirements in our slides later on. So what we'll be covering up here is the skill assessment requirement for accounting first. Yeah. So these are the so this is the accounting occupation requirement. So accounting occupations cover up all the accounting occupations, external auditor, finance manager. These 5 occupations are assessed by an assessment authority called CPA, IPA, or CA. So CPA is a chartered professional accounting body. IPA, CA, either of 3 bodies you can go through to apply for your skill assessment. For particular in taxation law or taxation accounting in skill assessment, you, as I mentioned here, you need to have that studies completed in Australian taxation law if you want to get a skill assessment as a taxation accountant. The rest of the occupation you can go through even if you have studied 9 core units. So what you should be doing is once you choose your course to study in Australia, Masters of Professional Accounting or Accounting, you have to make sure you do look after 2 main things. Number 1 is your duration. You need to make sure that your course duration is at least 2 years, 2 academic years, which is 92 weeks or more. Number 2, you have to make sure that you cover up all those core units, which requires for your skill assessment by CPA, IPA, or CA. That will make sure that you're gonna get your graduate work stream visa, PSW work stream, which is going to be for 3 years once you finish a master's, because you have studied 2 years in Australia. And also you're going to get a skill assessment as well, which is required for your skill migration in the future. So as long as you look after these 2 things, you'll be okay in terms of securing your 485 for 3 years and also your future chance towards the skill migration. I've seen a lot of students coming up to Australia with just 1.5 year studies or 1 year of studies. There are a lot of programs available in the market which are only 1.5 years, let's say Masters of Professional Accounting. If the duration might be 72 or 78 weeks, that's not enough. You have to make sure that your master's is at least 92 weeks or more registered in 𝐒𝐿𝐴, and it's either professional accounting advanced level, or if it's Masters of Accounting, it's accounting general for at least 2 years in duration. The skill assessment English requirement is uniform for accounting and finance manager occupation. So it's 7 each in either IELTS, PT, TOEFL, or Cambridge. So either you can do any of these exams as long as it's 7 equivalent, you'll be able to apply for your skill assessment. You don't need to achieve higher for skill assessment, or you don't really need to do a professional program as required for some of the students to do a skill assessment, as long as you have got this English score. This also gives you 10 additional points in your point test. So if you're applying for your PR, that will give you additional 10 points towards your the skilled point table as well. The only occupation which is different in assessment requirement is the internal auditor. When we talk about accounting occupations, internal auditor is assessed by something called 𝐻𝐻. 𝐻𝐻 requires different compared to IPO, CPO, CA. So what 𝐻𝐻 requirement is, you need to have highly relevant qualification, which is a bachelor degree or higher qualification, such as master's. And you also need to meet at least 1 year of post-qualification employment requirement. So your post-qualification employment must be at a skill level, and it has to be within last 5 years. So your 1 year has to be within last 5 years, and you need to have at least 20 hours or more per week in order to get a skill assessment. The task and duties must be highly relevant to your nominated occupation, which is an internal auditor. And to make sure you have a positive outcome, you need to make sure that you get both the qualification as well as employment assessed as a positive required. Sometimes you might have a different qualification, you have an experience as an internal auditor, that's not going to work. Or other way around, you have a bachelor degree in commerce, which is highly relevant to internal auditing, but then you don't have relevant experience, then you're not going to get the skill assessment done, even if you have 8 each in IELTS, because this is the only occupation which requires you to have 1 year of post-study experience for your skill assessment. The rest of the occupation are assessed by CPA, IP, or CA. They only require you to have academic requirements met and only the English requirements. So normally what the internal auditor does is they examine, verifies, evaluate, reports financial and operational processes, systems outcomes to ensure the financial and operational integrity and compliances. They also assist in business process review, risk assessment, developing deliverables, and reporting progress against the outcomes. These are the common guidelines or the common tasks as given on the 𝐬𝐻𝐿 requirements. For this particular occupation, you're required to have an organization chart as well, which shows that how your company requires this particular position genuinely, because not every company might need an internal auditor. After a certain scale, let's say a company with more than 50 staff or 100 staff might need an internal auditor to make sure that the internal processes are followed as required, and they are changing as required as well. But something which is very small scale, 5-10 employees, they might not need an internal auditor in most of the cases. It's case-to-case basis. And that's why the 𝐻𝐻 requires you to have an organization chart which outlines all the requirements and outlines what are the reporting lines for this particular role, to make sure that they judge that there is a genuine requirement for this particular role in the company. The bachelor, it has to be highly relevant. So the bachelor in highly relevant studies could include accounting, commerce, business. That course must also focus on risk analysis, business law, organization methods and structures, business management, accountancy, and business processes and the system. As long as you have covered up this particular topics in your bachelor, you should be able to get your bachelor assessed as a highly relevant. Then you just need to focus on getting highly relevant qualification, which is related to internal auditing. Normally, in a bigger knowledge-based companies or process-based companies or service-based industries, they do have internal auditor requirements to make sure all the processes are followed properly. If there is any requirements or there is any issues which needs to be addressed, they will assess that, and then they will create the policies according to make sure that the loopholes are covered up, compliance are met, and all those kind of requirements. The second group we are covering up is an HR related, which is human resources, one of the very common one. A lot of students, especially from subcontinent, come to study in Australia in related to MBA. So which is most of the students who have done either BCom, BBA, or BA, even BSc in some cases, they will be doing masters, MBA. Most of the MBAs are normally a general stream MBA, which covers up most of the subjects related to either HR, marketing, project management, and everything. Some universities or some providers do offer HR in specific, so HR as a specialized course, MBA in HR. These are the courses which leads you towards an occupation such as HR manager. So as an HR manager, you must have at least a bachelor or master's degree, which is equivalent to AQF level, and you must have that has to be highly relevant, and you need to have at least 3 years of HR related experience. 3 years has to be core HR related only, and out of 3 years, you have to make sure that 2 years are HR manager level role. This is very highly specific or highly skilled occupation. So where you have to demonstrate that You have a lot of people working under you and stuff. If your qualification is not relevant to HR or it's not meeting the highly relevant qualification requirement, then you normally need 5 years of experience, and at least 2 out of 5 has to be at HR manager level. Um, Normally what HR manager does is they obviously they look at HR related matters, but at a strategic level where you don't do at an admin level process. You are looking after the strategies, you're looking after the policy makings and all those kind of things. So as I said earlier, you need to make sure that for this particular role, your reporting line and your position is very high skilled. So depending on the size of the company or the business, the HR manager must report to, they have a reporting line basically. They must have held such position. They must have had a direct reporting line to a general manager or HR director or CEO of the company. They need to have a staff under them as well. So you need to make sure that you do have HR advisor or a team of HR advisors working under you. You have minimum 50 people or higher strength company as well. So to be assessed as a HR manager, then you need to make sure that your size and the complexity of the company is influencing as well, which means if it's a small scale company, then you don't need an HR manager. You just need an HR advisor or HR professional. It's hard to prove that you have an HR manager which has people working under them. So the company which has more than 50 employees, then only they might have an HR manager reporting people directly to them, HR manager reporting directly to the CEO or HR director or managing director of the company. So as I said, if the company is small scale, there is no requirement of HR manager, then you can fit yourself into an HR advisor. At similar level, but just the skill level is different. HR advisor provides staffing, HR related admin services to the company for their HR policies and programs, basically. This occupation requires qualification to be at bachelor level, and it has to be highly relevant studies. What they cover in highly relevant studies are HR management, strategy, organization development, psychology, change management, workforce analytics, diversity and inclusions, employment relations, learning and development. That has to be at a bachelor, master's, or higher level. So as long as you have bachelor level studies, and you have 1 year of experience, you'll be able to apply through HR advisor. The HR advisor must also have, as I said, 1 year of experience post qualification within last 5 years. That experience has to be at least 20 hours a week, and it cannot be along with your studies. It has to be post qualification. HR advisors can work in a small company. So as I said earlier, that if your company is not big enough, you only have, let's say, 15, 20 staff members, then you do need you might have an HR advisor level staff member working there. Normally, it's a higher scale level where you have 100 plus staff members who would have an HR manager, dedicated working staff under them as an HR advisors or admin staff. But smaller scale companies might have just an HR advisor doing all the tasks and duties and reporting directly to the company's owner or CEO of the company. The second occupation you can look into this particular groups is the recruitment consultant. So it's part of the human resource advisor or human resource professional group in general. The difference between HR advisor and recruitment consultant is obviously recruitment consultant interviews people for their job requirements and define the suitability of particular jobs and also assist employers to find a suitable staff. So recruitment consultants normally based in the recruitment agencies where they are not recruiting the staff for their own company. Mainly, they are recruiting staff for the clients. So a lot of HR companies provide staffing solutions to either manufacturing companies or BPO, KPO, those kind of companies where there is high turnaround of the people. They instead of taking the headache in-house, companies outsource the recruitment task to HR companies, where the companies will be making sure that they interview, they do the screenings, they do the introduction, and they do all those things. And then sometimes first 3 months, 6 months, they also process the payrolls. Once that client company understand that okay, this particular employee is looking at long term with us and is good fit for us, then they might offer direct agreement with from that company to the employee rather until that 6 months or so. obviously that HR company will be processing the payroll. So the people who do those recruitments in those HR companies will be called as a recruitment consultant. For this particular occupation, you need to have at least a bachelor degree, specialize in HR management, strategy, organizational development, psychology, workforce analytics, diversity and inclusions. You can consider other studies as well, case to case, but then it depends on in which area you work for. So there is an example given as well that if you are recruiting engineering professionals, so let's say if you're recruiting highly skilled engineers in manufacturing industry, then you might have your bachelor in engineering or master's in engineering. That is fine, but then it's case to case. The vet assessor will look at case to case. You need to have at least 1 year of post-qualification experience in order to get the positive skill assessment, and that has to be within the last 5 years, as required for HR advisor as well. You need to have both the qualification as well as experience assessed positively to get the positive outcome for your skill assessment. Third occupation is the workplace relationship advisor, which is also part of this HR professionals group. So this occupation requires you to have a bachelor degree or higher, which is relevant to your studies. I already mentioned what's required in this particular HR related bachelor's earlier. And requirement is same as a 20 hours a week experience, at least for 1 year in last 5 years. Highly relevant to your nominated occupation, and you need to have both assess the qualification as well as the experience assessed positively for your skill assessment. Workplace relationship advisor obviously manage the workplace relationship with industry bodies or the unions. So there is a different set of requirements. This particular occupation is not sponsored by all the states. I'll cover up those states which offers the state nomination for this. If you don't have a bachelor degree, you can still apply for your skill assessment if you have 2-year diploma and then 2 years of experience as well. So it's case to case. It depends on what qualification you have, but you need to have both the qualification as well as experience assessed positively for your skill assessment requirements. All right, so in these slides, we'll be covering up what visa options we have for each occupation, as mentioned earlier. So if we talk about accounting occupations, there are 3 main occupation: accounting, management accounting, taxes and accountant. They're all under the MLTSSL, so medium to long-term skill shortage list. There are 6-7 different visa options: 189, 190, 491, 482, 186, 494. A lot of you would have questions, what are these subclasses? So 189 is a skilled independent visa, which is basically a point-based visa where you don't really need to have an experience. It depends on the points. The higher points you have, you get the invitation faster. Just because of the COVID and a few other factors, obviously the Department of Home Affairs were not really inviting a lot of 189s, but then eventually post-COVID, we are hoping in next financial year from July this year, we will be hoping that there will be a high number of 189 invitations come through as well, because Australia will be eventually moving to aggressive migration policies to build up that workforce they have lost over the time because of the COVID. And also to boost the population, to boost the growth eventually for the economy. So watch out for that. But from July onwards, we'll be looking at the changes in maybe 189 subclass in particular. 190 is a state-sponsored visa where you need a nomination from particular states. 491 is a regional sponsored. So within the state, there are smaller regions. They can sponsor you. Let's say in Victoria, there's only one. But then New South Wales have a lot of different regions. South Australia only have one. So it depends on the state you get sponsored from. But then 491 is a regional sponsored visa where you have to stay in a designated regional area for at least 3 years out of 5. Then only you can apply for the PR. So it can lead you towards a PR, but you have to serve your time in the regional area. 482 is an employer-sponsored visa, which is short-term or long-term. So if your occupation is in the long-term list, you can apply for 4 years of the work-sponsored, employer-sponsored. So your occupation such as accountant, you can apply up to 4 years of the 482. And 186 is an employer-nominated scheme. So it's a permanent visa. You can apply for your PR after your 482 if you have worked with the same employer or in the same occupation at least for 3 years. So you have to work with the same employer who have sponsored you for 3 years, then you can apply for your 186, which is a permanent visa. If your occupation is in the short-term list, then you cannot apply for 186 directly. You have to explore other options such as state nominations or regional sponsored visas. 494 is a regional employer-sponsored visa as well. So that leads you towards the 191 after 3 years. That is, this particular occupation, this particular visa requires you to have an employer who can sponsor you as well. So last three, the 482, 186, 494 are employer-sponsored. First three, the 189, 190, 491, they all are skill migrations. So these are the difference between all these visa subclasses. So under the MLTSSL for accounting occupations, accountant, management accountant, taxes and accountant, these are the occupation, these are the visa classes or visa options. Company secretary 190, 491, 482, 494. I'll be covering up which states offer these options later on as well. Auditors, again, 6 options, 189, 190, 482, 186, 494. HR manager, HR advisor, recruitment consultant, they are on the short-term list, which offers 3 subclasses, 4 subclasses. Workplace relationship advisor, it's in the regional occupation group, which offers only 3 subclasses, 491, 482, 494. It's a bit hard to get a 482 or 494, depends on which pathway we go through, either in TSS or Dharma, or there are different options. So in this, this is the data from October 2021, that how many EOIs were launched for the skill migration programs in Australia. It's openly available to everyone on Department of Home Affairs website. You can also go through that data. It's constantly changing as well. So obviously it depends on the number of people lodged the EOIs and number of invites have been issued. This data will be always changing. These slides cover up what are the current trends happening with different occupations. So accounting occupations not being invited for 189, as I said earlier, because of the COVID and multiple other reasons. But hopefully a department will relook into that strategy towards mid this year, which is the new financial year starting from July 2022. But you can also apply for 190 or 491. These particular subclasses are available in New South Wales, South Australia, Western Australia, Queensland, NT, Tasmania, ACT. So pretty much every state except Victoria. Sometimes Victoria do offer, they have a different strategy for these accounting occupations. Obviously, they have their own set of priority groups or priority sectors they want to focus on. So if you are working as an accountant in one of those priority sectors, there is still a chance you might get invited. HR manager not being invited for 189 as of 189, because obviously it's not in the long-term list, but you can apply for 190 or 491 except New South Wales. HR advisor, again, not 189, 190, 491 available in ACT, which is Australian Capital Territory, South Australia, Northern Territory, Tasmania, Queensland, and some cases Victoria, as I mentioned earlier, if you're working in those core sector they are focusing on. Recruitment specialist, again, only 190 or 491. Every state except New South Wales and WA. Workplace relationship advisor, you can apply for 491 from either South Australia, Northern Territory, Tasmania, ACT, or Queensland. Chances from Queensland are not much, so you should look for either South Australia, Northern Territory, or Tasmania. Internal auditor, they are not getting invited under 189 because of the issues happening with the Department of Affairs. But you can explore 190 or 491 through either different states. Most of the states are offering 190 or 491 except WA and most cases of Victoria. But Victoria has different guideline. One of the very common questions I normally get asked when student coming from offshore, that which states they should be going straight from offshore or they should be going for better chance of their permanent residency after the studies. So what you should be preferring is depending on your specialized study. If you are accountant, you should look at these states, which is South Australia, WA, Tasmania, Northern Territory. If you are auditor, accountant, then these are the 5 states. Including New South Wales for auditors. These are the current trend, basically. This can change depending on the job market requirement, but normally they are very steady, especially in the smaller states like WA. When I say smaller, not with the size, I'm talking about the population small. South Australia, WA, Tasmania, Northern Territory. They are small in the population, so they will be always looking to add more people. So eventually, they'll have more options in these states than bigger states like New South Wales or Victoria, even Queensland, when we talk about population. HR manager, you look at South Australia, Victoria, Queensland, and WA. HR advisor, South Australia, NT, Tasmania. Recruitment consultant, South Australia, Tasmania, Northern Territory. And workplace relationship advisor, South Australia, Northern Territory. These are the best states as per me for where you should be looking at your migration pathway. So if you are coming to Australia first time, or you're already in Australia and watching this video, looking at option where to go, these are my guide where you should be looking at to either relocate or choose your studies accordingly, that choose on a provider which are based in this particular states. Some key facts about migration pathways, or what you should be looking at, is securing an employment in your field will always increase your chance compared to high points. A lot of students might have 100 points and they still wonder why they're not getting invitation. But then if the department is focusing on the skill migration, which fulfill the requirement of skill migration with the job, then they will be looking at applicants who are working in their field. So if you have a job, even though you might have less points, but you have a job in your field, then you have a higher chance. More point is always better, obviously, but then it's state to state wise. So what you should be focusing on is, number one is your job, number two is your points. Every state is preferring the applicant who are based in their states. So if you are based in, let's say, South Australia, and you want to apply for New South Wales or Victoria or any other states, chances are very slim they will be even looking at your application, because the requirements or the criteria is very clear on the website that you must be currently either living or working in their state. So you should be looking at preferring the state where you want to apply, do your homework, and make sure that you're living and working in that state to increase your chance. Migration requirements can change according to the current requirements and also the industry feedback or the industry planning. Ceiling value can be allocated to each occupations according to the requirements as well. So let's say, as of now, there is a COVID going on around the world, including Australia. So there are more allocation in related to the health occupations, also the laboratory medicines occupations and stuff as well. In between, there were more allocation for manufacturing, industrial engineering, mechanical engineering occupations as well. So it can change with the demand of the time. Skill migration is all about the industry feedback, so they should look at the industry requirements and adjust the program accordingly. So you should not be surprised to see some changes, but then over the period of time, 2-3 years, obviously it's the same occupation which might get repeated, because there is always a demand in the market for certain occupations. So as long as your occupation falls under the long-term list and you have a job, there's always a high chance you'll get a PR. You just need to make sure that you are updated with your changes in terms of the skill migration. Smaller states in population, as I said earlier, South Australia, Tasmania, they have an aggressive migration program. So you should look at that option as a preferred study area, where you start your master's, your bachelor's. From there itself, you have a higher chance to get a permanent residency, because they want to retain their own graduates. They want to increase the population to boost up the economy and boost up the GDP. So it's always a better chance for your migration pathways if you choose the right state from the beginning, rather than coming to Australia and then changing different states or anything like that. It's better to do your homework, do your right research in terms of the right providers, right opportunities for your field, right opportunities for your migration pathways if you are gonna planning to apply for your PR in the future. It is very good time for you to apply for your permanent residency compared to the past. Let's say even in past 5 years, because of the pandemic, a lot of things have changed. The requirements or the priorities have changed for a lot of governments, a lot of state governments, and the regional governments as well. So I personally believe last 12 months and the next 12 months will be a really good time for a lot of people to apply for permanent residency, because of the aggressive migration program they'll be looking at post-pandemic. This is the the giveaway bumper contest we're running as well. So if you have shared any of our content, just make sure you do tag us, hashtag Education Summit 2022 or hashtag Aussizz Group, and hashtag, I would say, and you can win 3 different prizes, and also there are other prizes to win as well. Thank you. I'll take some questions. If I have any questions on the screen, just give me a second. I'll come back to the screen first.
You do have some questions. Thank you, Tejas, for your presentation. I'll just read it out for you.
Sure.
So the first one is from Lip. She's asking how to get your skill assessment done since she's offshore.
Yep. So, sorry, what was the name? I missed the name.
Lippy.
Lippy. Okay. And do you know the occupation group? Which one was it?
So she has done bachelor in accounting.
Okay.
And now she has just finished logistic in supply chain in Perth, but she's stuck now offshore, and she has no experience in accounting.
Okay, that's fine. So you don't really need an experience for your skill assessment. You need to make sure that you have done all the subjects what CPO, IPO, CA requires. So what you have to do is apply for your skill assessment as long as you have 65 in each module of PTE or 7 each in IELTS. Initially, the CPO, IPA, or CA will refuse your application, saying you don't meet all the academic criteria. So they will assess your subjects as long as you have done all the 9 core subjects. They might give you assessment as long as you have the English as well. If you haven't done those 9 core subjects, what they will be doing is they will recommend you to do those 2-3 subjects which are gap units. Then you have to find a provider in Australia who can offer you those gap units either online or face-to-face, depending on your situation. Once you finish that gap units, you'll meet all the academic requirement. You already met your English requirement earlier, so you'll tick both the boxes. Then you can just get your skill assessment done. You don't really need an experience for your skill assessment in the accounting field.
Mm-hmm. Lippy, if there was a good answer for you, let us know. If not, just please write down some more details about your background, and then Tejas can do a deeper analysis of your profile. The second question is from him. He says, I'm an ACCA affiliate. I have just one question. Which is the regional area I should choose to study Masters in Finance?
Look, as I mentioned earlier, smaller states in population will be always first priority. So if you're looking at Masters of Finance option, you should look at either South Australia, Tasmania, or Northern Territory. But keep in mind, the financial occupation requires 1 year of post-qualification experience for your skill assessment through VETASS. So what you should be doing is obviously choosing the smaller state for your studies. Try to get a job there. If you cannot, then you'll have to explore the job option in a bigger states. Get your skill assessment done, then you might have to move back to the original state, work in any other skilled occupation, and see if they can sponsor you for 491 or 190. It's a bit challenging for financial occupations because in a smaller states, in terms of the population, there are not many opportunities in those areas. But then again, it all depends on individual, that what's your connections, what is your industry touch, how active you are in terms of getting a job in your field, and all those factors. But personally, I would recommend South Australia, Tasmania, or Northern Territory for this occupation.
Thank you, Tejas. Are you able to see the chat box?
Let me check.
Just on the top there. We have a question from Anisha, but I couldn't really understand. Maybe you understand better than me. It says, I have done B.com. I don't know if it's business course. It was at 5 and 13.
Is it the one I'm looking at?
Anisha Prajapati. Yeah.
Yep, sure.
Business commerce, maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's fine. So Anisha has done Bachelor of Commerce and Inter-CA, which is fine as well. What course can I apply for? So Anisha, you can look into applying for Masters of Professional Accounting Advanced or Masters of Accounting, which is 2 year studies in Australia. That can get you the permanent residency if you meet other requirements. But obviously, after these 2 years of study, you'll be able to apply for your post-study work visa, which is going to be for 3 years, being a master's graduate. And then you can explore your PR options after that. But you should look at Masters of Professional Accounting, which is for 2 years, or Masters of Accounting in general for 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Tejas. We have a question from Prashil. He's saying, my wife just received a work offer and contract in Brisbane. Do we need a full skills assessment for 482 visa? What is the duration for the 482 grant? What is the estimate duration? And what could be the cost, an estimation of the cost for that visa as well?
Yeah. So Prashu, in terms of your 482, you haven't specified your occupation. Normally, it depends on the occupation to occupation. The processing time can differ. In regards to your skill assessment requirement, not every occupation requires skill assessment for 482. Only certain occupations for certain passport holders require skill assessment. So accounting normally don't require skill assessment, and the processing time can be varied depending on the nomination has been approved or not, nomination has been lodged or not, but average time can be 2 to 3 months in current situation.
It is for accountant, he just replied.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, Lippy, she's asking again, can I get a work offer letter from Australia if she's stuck in India now? So then that could be a chance for her to come back.
Lippy, I've just seen your other answer as well, that you can study online. Yes, you can study online if your institute where you're going to do those gap units can offer you online studies. In terms of getting a job offer in Australia, you can, but I don't know how you got stuck offshore, because at the moment the borders are open for the student visa holders or the graduate visa holders. If you don't have any visa to come back, or you're on a bridging visa B, then you might get stuck there, obviously. In that case, you'll have to wait for the department to open up the borders for all the other visa holders. In terms of the offer letter and stuff, only offer letter will not help you to get back to the country. You need to have either a visa to come back, or you need an employer who can sponsor you. But employer sponsored visas require 2 years of experience, so it really depends if you have those 2 years of experience or not.
She has just said that she got a visa refusal in the past. I'll just recommend you, I'll leave in the comments here Tejas' email, so you guys can discuss this in more detail, because it looks like there's a lot more in your story, and it would be good if you could just get a detailed description of what happened to be able to guide you properly. We have a question from him again. Is the finance courses in the skill occupation? I lost it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, for example, in South Australia.
Yeah. So most of the financial occupations, they are based, they are in the short-term list as STSOL. When I say STSOL, that doesn't mean it does not lead you towards a PR. Obviously, you can apply for your PR as long as your occupations are available through state sponsorship. So if we talk about South Australia, it has more than 500 occupations, which means as long as you have a skill assessment, you meet the point test requirement, which is 65, you'll be able to apply for your state nomination if you're based in South Australia. So if you study finance related course in South Australia, and you get 1 year of post-study experience to get a skill assessment, then yes, you can apply for your PR through 491 or 190 in South Australia.
We have a question from Jasper Singh. He's asking, he has done Bachelor of Business. Which course should I apply in which area?
So Jasper, you should look at Masters of Business or Masters on Information Business System, which is called MBIS, or MBA in general, or MBA specialized in marketing or digital management, HR management, anything related to that, even project management. The reason being specialized in those areas, because these areas can lead you towards skill assessment as a project admin, marketing specialist, HR manager, or HR advisor, and then you can apply for your PR as well. The best states to study these courses could be South Australia, Tasmania, Northern Territory, even WA in some occupations as well. These 3-4 states can give you a better pathway towards your permanent residency. Obviously, you can explore other states as well, but then migration policy can change over the time.
Anisha, she's saying she's married and she wants to know how she can apply for dependent visa for her husband.
So Anisha, if you're planning to apply for your student visa along with your partner, then it depends how good profile you have, as in your recent studies, your English, how old your marriage is, and all those factors. Normally, the dependent or the combined application as a couple, it's not recommended, because department looks at less incentives for you as a primary applicant to go back to your home country after your studies. there's higher chance of refusal. So normally we don't recommend that. But if you want to apply together, you should look at two things. One is your overall profile. It has to be very good. Second is your education provider. So if you look at the Group 8 universities or assessment level 1 universities, they would have better chances with the dependent along with you to get the visa granted. But then again, it's case to case basis.
Pursue he's back. He's asking, so he's the one who has the wife that got the offer letter for Brisbane, and he's saying they are offshore in Fiji, and the occupation is accountant. So what is the duration? 2 or 3 months for 482?
Look, the issue with offshore applicants is because until December the borders were closed for most of the visa holders. So now department is prioritizing the work sponsored visas because there is a genuine skill shortages in Australia. Most of the employers are struggling to find a stable staff, so they are picking up. Whatever the average time is given on the departmental website, they are all average as I mentioned. So the average time could be 3 months, but then it depends on how decision ready is your application, as in all the documents are provided. Your nomination is complete as well, your documentation in terms of your labor market testing, your financial requirements for the company, all of those are provided. You meet the requirements of having at least 5 full-time staff, $1 million turnover, being an accounting occupation as well. So you need to meet those requirements as well. So it really depends on those factors, but average time can be 3 months.
Anisha, who is looking to apply for a dependent visa for her husband, she's asking, is there a minimum qualification requirements for my husband?
So Anisha, what department also looks at is yours and your partner's qualification comparison. So if I'm a primary student, I'm applying for masters, but my partner doesn't have even a bachelor degree, then there is something wrong. I'm using this just to come to the country, and then I might not have a right purpose of study. So what department is looking at? Obviously, if you are coming to study masters, you already have your partner who is at a bachelor or higher level, or similar level qualification, or a good stable income, or good stable qualifications in the past. So they should be having at least equivalent or higher qualification, I would say, in order to have a good competitive profile.
Thank you, Tejas. That's all the questions we got so far. Oh, we just got a new one. Jasper, can you tell me the best intakes for my master?
So Jasper, you still have March intake available in some of the institute in Australia, and as of now, the good thing is most of the visas get through within 3 to 4 weeks. If you're offshore, if you cannot join the March intake, the next will be in July, so you can join the July intake.
Thank you, Tejas. Just a reminder, if whoever is watching us now, if you get some time to write down a post on your social media or even make a comment in our official post on our Facebook page, I have shared the link previously here in the comment box. You get a chance to win prizes for being part of this event. I don't think we have any other questions for now. Tejas, do you have any final words for the audience?
Look, the best recommendation I would personally give is do your homework. Don't rely on others' research. To be honest, if you're coming to study in Australia, you need to make sure that you have done enough research in terms of which providers, why, which states, why, do you have ground support in those states or not, and stuff. But the biggest of all is obviously from day one, you need to make sure that you should go with the right course, right university, and right state. Because if you're planning to stay over after that, and you want to change, you want to change the state, you want to change the provider and stuff, it's a lot of headache. You'll be losing time, you'll be losing money and stuff. So it's better to just do your homework from the day one. Even if you, let's say, if you're coming to South Australia, if you're initially going to Melbourne, let's say, or with New South Wales or any other state, because you have a support there, you have a friend or family member there, but there's not many options for your PR there, then from day one you should look at different state. Start strategizing your career or your planning accordingly. Support at the ground level might be, okay, you'll eventually build up. As long as you have a capacity, you'll go through that. But then eventually after coming here, you have to move again in 6 months. You'll be struggling for at least a year. Whereas if you come straight to the state where you have a better option, you'll be struggling for first 3 months, and then you'll have your better, stable future. Keep changing the providers, keep changing the states, the courses will not give you a better option in terms of the PR or in terms of your stability in your life. So do your homework and make sure you choose the right provider and right state.
We still have a few more minutes, and we just got a few more questions here, so I'll just read out to you.
Sure.
From Cutie, is there any university in Adelaide or anywhere where I could pay one subject fee to get the COE from offshore? I have done Bachelor of Business Management.
So you can do masters. In terms of one subject fees, normally you can choose one subject to study, but certain, let's say Kaplan Business School in Adelaide, they do offer one subject, but then they might ask you to pay the second subject fees before the enrollment of the particular course. So you can explore that option. What I can recommend is drop me an email. I can connect you with our education team, and they can assist you choosing the right provider for you.
Cutie, I will send you Tejas' email so you can get in touch. Anisha is asking, if I want to do CPA, what do I need to do?
Anisha, either you can either do your CPA after coming here. Normally, you cannot apply for a student visa to do a CPA. Most of the providers, like let's say CPA offers the courses, but they don't offer COE for you to apply for your student visa. So either you need to secure the permanent residency first in order to do the CPA, or you have to contact the CPA directly. If you are a registered CA overseas, they will give you a pathway how to register here with CPA or CA.
From Kumesha is asking, does CPA give any positive chances for skills assessment and PR? Thank you.
So Kumesha, CPA is a skill assessment body. They don't issue the visa, so they don't give you the PR. Skill assessment requirement, as long as you meet the skill assessment requirements, CPA will be giving you the skill assessment. There is no refusals or anything. You just need to make sure you meet your academic requirement and you meet your English requirement. In terms of your PR depends on which subclass you apply for. So there are different ways you can apply for your PR in Australia, either through skill migration, employer-sponsored, partner visa, protection visa, family visa. So there are different visas you can explore. In terms of skill migration after studying as an accountant, you can apply for your PR as long as you meet the point test, you have a job here, or you are getting the state sponsorship. So these are two different requirements, but yes, as long as you meet the academic and English requirements, CPA or CA will give you the skill assessment. And then to apply for your PR, you need to meet the state nomination requirement or 189 requirement.
Last one from him, he's asking, how versatile is the Australian market for financial course?
So Ham, it really depends on how keen you are into this field. When we talk about financial market, it's obviously big. Any developed country will have very strong banks and the financial industries. In Australia, we have 4 big banks, which are top 10 companies. So in the top 10 big companies in Australia, 4 are banks. So you can imagine the influence of the financial market in Australian GDP or Australian economy. They're very strong. There are a lot of opportunities, but it's all about how you enter into those areas. Because being on a temporary visa or being recently graduated, entering into the financial sector straight away, it might be difficult. You have to step up eventually.
Kumesha just said, sorry, I'm studying CPA. That was the previous question.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, so you can study CPA only after getting your visa sorted, or because CPA will not issue a COE for you to apply for your student visa. So you'll have to either be registered with your home country's CA's bodies and stuff, and then look at the articulation options. Certain countries do have articulation with CPA Australia in order for them to recognize here as well, as long as you do those gap units and stuff. So you should get your PR sorted first and then look at that option.
Can we just do one more?
Yeah, absolutely.
Peter is asking, how long does it take to grant for dependent visa of student visa?
Look, Peter, to be honest, I don't have your answer because student dependent visa is very uncertain or very subjective to country. The reason I'm saying is, let's say if you are from India or any other countries in subcontinent, the processing time could be very long. But if you are coming from African continent, Pretoria, South Africa office might be faster. So it's changing the location to location basis. But as of now, I'm seeing more than 6 months wait. But to be honest, I'm not specialized in student visa dependent areas, so I don't have a particular answer for you. But then it's at least 6 months I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I'm going to share with you as well Tejas' email so you can discuss your case specifically. I'd like to thank you everyone who joined us today. Thank you, Tejas, for sharing with us so much information and replying to all questions. I'll just ask everyone, if possible, leave us a review on our social media post on our Facebook page, and that will help us to understand what you liked about the session and improve for the next ones. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day and see you in the next sessions. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.